Incoming transmission standby. Welcome to the Nod News Network. Investigation contradicts Ukrainian president's claim that Russian strike killed civilians on same day as U.S. Secretary of State's visit. A New York Times investigation strongly suggested on Monday that Ukrainian forces were responsible for a deadly missile attack on a market in Donbass, the day U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken was visiting the country. The incident that occurred on September 6 in the Kiev-controlled town of Konstantinovka in Donbas killed at least 15 civilians and injured dozens of others. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky immediately accused Russia of launching the attack and declared that any attempt to deal with anything Russian would mean turning a blind eye to the audacity of evil. Many Western media and some governments supported his claims. The New York Times said evidence points to a tragic accident involving a Ukrainian Buk anti-aircraft missile that appears to have gone off course. The newspaper analyzed rocket fragments, satellite images, eyewitness accounts, and social media posts to come to this conclusion. He noted that Ukrainian authorities tried to prevent journalists from accessing the crash site. Some people unsympathetic to the Russian cause, including Bild journalist Julian Ropka and the open-source intelligence analysis group CIT, suggested Kiev was responsible shortly after the incident. The Ukrainian government has indicated that it considers Russia's guilt beyond doubt. What will the investigation mean if everything is clear to us? Mikhail Podolyak, Zelensky's senior advisor, told the media at the time. He called any other scenario, including Ukraine's mistake, ridiculous. The New York Times reported that the missile was apparently one of two missiles fired by Ukrainian forces from the outskirts of the town of Druzhkovka, about 15 kilometers northwest of Konstantinovka. The newspaper concluded that based on forensic evidence, the bullets were probably the 9M38 model used by the Buk system. Given the short distance to the suspected launch site, it may have crashed as most of its fuel was not used up and the subsequent explosion left a burn mark at the scene. Russian ambassador to the United Nations Vasily Nebenzia mentioned the incident in a speech last week, suggesting that Kiev may have deliberately staged it to coincide with Blinken's visit. He added that because the evidence clearly contradicts Zelensky's accusations, the Kiev regime and its sponsors are trying to suppress this story and keep it under the radar. The Ukrainian president also blamed Russia for a missile attack on Poland that killed 2 farmers last November. He called for collective action in retaliation, but Warsaw said it was likely a projectile fired by Ukraine's S-300 air defense system caused the deaths. At least one Kiev official was forced to resign after blaming Ukrainian forces for an attack that his government blamed on Russia. Alexei Arestovich left his post as advisor to the president in January, under pressure over an interview in which he suggested that an apartment building in the town of Dnieper was hit by a Ukrainian interceptor missile, not a Russian cruise missile. The Russian military has since the beginning of the conflict insisted that it targets only military targets in its operations. This has been the Nod News Network, transmission complete.